Hello and thank you for joining me for part 13 of building a beach buggy. 13 episodes already, lucky 13. Well, I must admit I feel pretty lucky because I've got the engine in the car down there and without giving too much away, it looks pretty awesome. So before we get on to that, we're just going to cast our minds back to the previous episode. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch that one now and you'll see that at the end we ended on a bit of a bombshell where we had kind of a nightmare when it came to painting the wheels and the paint hadn't adhered to the primer correctly. So I've done them all again. They've turned out totally perfect. I'm really happy with the way they look, and I'm even happier that the paint has actually stuck to the primer. Now, I did consider using a different paint to do them, but that wouldn't have told me what the issue was, and that doesn't sit right with me. I wanted to figure out what had gone wrong. So I am 99.9% sure that the issue was exactly like I thought. I'd left the primer too long until I top coated it. I basically did these ones straight after they were primed, left them a day or two, flatted them back, got the top coat on there. It stuck like crazy. It looks amazing. Really, really happy with it. So yeah, this episode is all going to be about the engine and all the detailing and the install of all that stuff. So before we get on to that, I'm just going to show you what the chassis looks like outside, on the floor, on its wheels, because yeah, we've been waiting a couple of years for this moment. So check it out and then we'll get on to the engine.
There it is, on its wheels, finally. Just rolled it outside so you can get a better look at it. Second time round, the paint job on the wheels has come out even better than the first one, and it's not going to fall off this time, so yeah, pretty happy. That's going to look cool with the body on it. But before we do that, we've got to get the motor in. But to make my life easier, I bought some nice little skates, so I can chuck it on that and roll it about any which way I please. Look at that.
Okay, the time has finally come to talk about engines. Now, this is something that I've really been looking forward to and something that I couldn't wait to show you. Basically, when I started this project, I wasn't entirely sure what engine I was going to run, you know. I thought obviously it was going to be a Volkswagen flat 4. I thought maybe I'll rebuild myself a little 15 or 1600 with twin carbs. These things don't weigh much. They don't require much power at all to scoot them along quite nicely. And then I thought, well, you know, if I'm going to build something, I might as well get a little bit fruity with it, you know. I do come from a hot rod background, so a little bit of extra power wouldn't do any harm. So maybe a 1776 or something like that would be perfect for it. And it was at this point that I remembered an old customer of mine that I know from a number of years ago, who got into Volkswagens for a period of time well over 10 years ago, and he bought up quite a few parts at the time, and I thought, I wonder if he's still got anything kicking about in his store, because he's long since removed himself from the hobby. So I got in touch with him thinking that he might have, you know, a crankcase or a set of carbs or something kicking around, and I was pretty surprised when he told me, I've got a brand new engine in a box and I can't even really remember what it is. It was that long ago. So this, of course, piqued my interest, so I did a little bit of research and not ended up with a 1776, not even ended up with a 2 litre. What I've got is a 2332cc Scat crate engine, a turnkey ready to go engine. Now, it's completely overkill for the car that I'm putting it in, but when he told me what he wanted for it, put it this way, he bought it a long time ago. The dollar was 2 to 1. It's been sat in a box for a long time. He told me what he needed to have for it, and I almost ripped his arm off, you know. I couldn't buy the parts to build this engine for what I paid for the entire turnkey ready-to-go package. Now, obviously, it's been sat for a long period of time, so first thing I did was grab the flywheel by hand and it turned over free as a bird, so I knew that we were safe and that there was no rust in the bores or anything like that. So yeah, it's obviously totally over the top for what's going in this car, but it's not a full-blown race motor or anything like that. I'm not totally certain of the internal specs, but I know that when he ordered it, it was, the cam is spec'd for the road. It's on 44mm Webers and not 48s. So even though it is still infinitely more power than I'm ever going to need, it's not a, you know, horrible to use race only engine. It was spec'd for the street. So yeah, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. So I got it from him, put it in my storage unit for a couple of years, where, to be honest, it's sat out of sight, out of mind. And the other day, the time finally came for me to load it up in the back of my 61 Ford truck, bring it down the road to my house, unbox it, and yeah, see what ridiculousness is about to get unleashed on this unsuspecting little dune buggy. So I can't wait to show you. Check this out. It's so good. Okay, let's have a closer look at this thing. I'll tell you what, for it being sat in a box for over 10 years, it has fared remarkably well. Obviously, we've got a little bit of surface rust on the carb linkage there, but I've already ordered a piece of stainless steel hex bar to replace that. We got little bits of surface rust on a few bits and bobs, but it's still turned over by hand by the flywheel. And I mean, I didn't even touch anything. So whatever scat put down the bores and everything else, what assembly lube or preservation oil or whatever, it seriously works well, because it's held up so well. Like I say, there's a few little areas that are a little bit scabby, but I'm going to be changing a few bits and bobs anyway. So I'm going to be taking a fair amount of the, you know, the exterior components off, because I want to paint all the tinware white. Obviously, because it's going in a buggy, we don't need all the tinware. We probably don't need these parts. I want to change these pulleys for something a little bit less modern looking, to sort of keep in style with the kind of retro theme of the car. And again, change the plug leads so we haven't got blue ones on there and things like that. Not a big fan of this knurled finish on this oil filler cap, so we'll do something about that. But it's all minor bits. So yeah, really happy with this thing. It's an absolute score. Way bigger than I was planning on putting in the car, but when has that ever been a problem? So I've just got the clutch out there at the moment, because we've just got to figure out a couple of little bits and bobs with the clutch release bearing, because I've got an early gearbox, they call it, and the release bearing that I've got was for a later one, so I just need to figure out that stuff, and yeah, we can get the thing bolted in, and we're one step closer to making some noise. But look at it, it's so cool. Really happy. Right, before I start ripping into the thing too far, let's just get to know it a little bit better. So we've got our deep extended sump there. We've got the legendary Weber 44 IDFs. We've got Petronix flamethrower coil and distributor. We've got the Type 3 tinware and whatnot under there. Like I say, I'm going to change the pulleys and a couple of other bits, but yeah, this thing is going to be a bit of a beast in this car, I reckon. So we've got our oil pump there for a remote mounted oil filter, like you see in, you know, California look Beetles and whatnot. Yeah, it's really nice to actually get a good look at it, because say it's been in a box for a couple of years since I bought it, and I really want to know what the specs are inside this thing. I'm pretty sure it's based around Scat's Volks Racer package, they call it, which is a AS41 magnesium crankcase, which is bored and clearanced for the stroker crank and everything. I'm not entirely sure the specs of the cam and things like that. I have emailed Scat to see if they still have any information on record from the guy that bought it originally. But yeah, it's a bit of a mystery motor inside, but I'm certainly pleased with everything on the outside. So I'm just going to start pulling some stuff off it now. I want to, you know, we can do away with certain parts of the tinware. We don't need bits like that. I'm probably going to trim off a few little bits around here, and because we're going to lose that bit, there's nowhere for it to mount down there, so we're going to put some riv nuts and what in there to hold everything together. But yeah, it's going to be quite nice to just take a little bit of it apart to, like I say, get to know it a bit better. Okay, I've yanked off most of the exterior parts. Always stick some little rags down in your ports when you do stuff like that, because all it takes is to drop a washer or something down there and you've wrecked it. So that's all those bits off there. So all the carbs are off, all the fuel system, ignition and alternator and all that business. What I need to do now is figure out how I'm going to make this tinware work a little bit better, because if you've ever worked on one of these things yourself, you'll know that these things always fit like crap, and the last thing you want is them to be vibrating and rattling around. These parts here are the bits that I'm not going to use. So those bits that go around the oil cooler for the back, which are designed to sort of duct the air if it's in a Beetle. That bit that goes around the pulley on the front, don't need that. Don't need that part around the back either. But the downside of removing that is that the shrouds don't have anything to bolt to there, so basically they'd be flapping about and no doubt vibrating. So they secure to the doghouse fan shroud doodah there with a bolt either side. So what I'm going to do is put a bolt through there, but you'll see what I've done is I've scribed a line there where I need that to sit, but there isn't a huge amount of room there, so I'm probably going to end up welding a little piece onto that so that I can put a riv nut with a bolt through it. So that's the plan. A couple of other little bits and bobs, like on these corners here. Obviously there's going to be no other piece of tinware for these to bolt to, so I'm probably going to trim these off and maybe refinish these edges, zip these bits off, basically go around with a hammer and dolly and just neaten up all the edges and straighten things out and get them to fit a little bit better. So that's the plan. Okay, there we go. That's one that I haven't touched, and that's one that I have. So just knock those corners off to get rid of those little captive nuts there, and it just looks a lot neater. So we've hammered a little return on there, welded the corners up, dressed it all nicely, so by the time that's painted you never know it's been messed with. That's what we like. Now I just got to do the other one. A couple of other things that I'm not particularly keen on that I want to change are this pulley and this bolt. Now this is obviously a decent fine quality pulley, it's what Scat put on the motor, but I'm just not a fan of the style of it. It looks a bit too modern, a bit too sort of billety, and I don't like the blue on there. The bolt's pretty ugly as well, so I'm sure we can do better than that. Now there are shed loads of other pulleys on the market, but to be honest with you, I can't find one that I like, which anybody has got in stock, which works for the type of seal that's on this pulley. So I haven't really got anything to lose by trying to turn this one into something that I think is a little bit better looking. So I'm going to chuck it in the lathe, I'm going to skim out the centre, and basically the plan is, the way that it works, obviously there's a washer with a bolt that goes through there. So my logic is, why don't I do away with that washer, machine out that little sort of bevel there so it's got like a corner in it, and then I've got some 3mm stainless steel plates. So the idea is to make a bigger washer that fits in there, and I can paint that a different colour, and yeah, should look the part. And if it doesn't, I'll try and find another one. So let's get it in the lathe and see how it goes. It was at this point that I got a knock on the door, and it was the postman with my brand new clutch. So I decided to put the pulleys to one side for a bit so that I could actually get this engine bolted in, and then all the other stuff can be bolted to it once it's installed in the car. Now, the reason I needed a new clutch is because this is the one that came on the engine. It's a brand new Kennedy Stage 1 clutch, which is, to be honest, the perfect clutch for this sort of application. But I'm replacing it with a Kennedy Stage 1 clutch. Sounds ridiculous, I know, so I'll just give a very quick explanation as to why that is. Basically, these clutches come with a sort of central ring, which is, if you're using it with a late gearbox, you remove that ring and chuck it away. If you're using it with an early gearbox, which is what I've got, that ring needs to be there. Now, I couldn't find anywhere where I could purchase that ring separately, so I didn't really have much choice other than to buy another clutch. So it's one of those things. I guess I got a spare pressure plate now. But another reason for it is because this is the disc that came with the engine. And if you know anything about these things, you'll know that paddle clutches like this, they offer a very harsh engagement under power. So they're kind of like on or off. Great for drag racing, you know, if you've got a big heavy car and you really want to give it some bite on the launch. But a beach buggy, much lighter weight, we've got more power than we're ever going to need in this thing. So I really want to be able to feed that power in gradually so that I don't end up doing too many wheelies and trashing the gearbox and everything else. So I've been reliably informed that a Sachs full circle disc is a much better option. It's still more than capable of coping with the power, and it's just going to make this thing a bit more drivable. So that's what we went with. And yeah, like I say, at least I've got a spare now. Anybody want to buy a cheap clutch?
Right, it's time to get this clutch in so we can get the motor bolted up to the gearbox out there. So here is our brand new Kennedy Stage 1 pressure plate with the little central pad, which is obviously the bit we were missing before. There's our Sachs clutch disc, full circle disc instead of the paddle jobby, should give us better clutch control. Brand new release bearing there. We've got a torque wrench and everything set up, ready to go. One thing that's worth mentioning, speaking from experience, it's always worth doing when you're fitting a new clutch, is just verify that the splines in the middle of the disc mate up with the ones on the input shaft properly. Because many years ago, me and my mate Lloyd were doing a clutch on my Mark 1 Golf. There we go, look, absolutely perfect. And slid the disc on, all seemed good. Went to take the car for a spin, and then the thing just sat there spinning, and the reason was, even though the splines felt like they went on okay, there was actually twice as many splines as there should have been. It was a clutch for something else. It felt good going on, but as soon as we went to drive away, the thing just spun around on the shaft, and we had to take everything apart again. So yeah, try to avoid that happening. But this one, all good. Let's get it in. Another thing that's always worth doing is just giving this this pressure plate a quick little clean. So I just use a bit of brake cleaner on a Scotch-Brite, not a lot, no need to drown it, and just give it a quick scrub just to get rid of any oils or greasy handprints or anything like that. There we go. And also do the same thing on the friction surface of the flywheel there. Perfect. And cheers to my mate Kit for lending me his clutch alignment tool. Saves me from doing my usual thing of wrapping a long socket with electrical tape until it's the right size. So that keeps things nice and centered while we put the clutch on. That makes life easier, doesn't it? So now with that installed, all I've got to do is chuck the pressure plate on. Oh. There we go. And now all I've got to do is just double check that alignment tool, make sure that's nice and in the middle, yeah. And then equally sort of torque these down, so I don't want to just winch one of them in and bend the thing over this way, so I'll tighten them up in a star pattern just a little bit at a time, then I can torque them up. There we go, yeah, all still nicely aligned. Now I can torque them to spec.
There we go. Okay, I've got one more thing to do before I can slam this motor in, and that's fit the new clutch release bearing. Now, there are different styles, early and late, like I explained earlier. This is obviously an early one. Another thing that's definitely worth doing with these is just giving the splines a little clean there, just to make sure there's no bits of grit or junk or anything in them there. Lovely. Clean the old grease off of the forks there. And it doesn't need much at all, but just a tiny little dab of grease where that bearing pivot's on there. So then that guy goes there, and it's held in with these annoying fiddly little clips. So let's see if I can get them in without them flying out. Now, as predicted, these are a complete pig to get in, and I've already managed to ping one of them across the workshop. So I found this is the best way to do it. Cable tie the bearing up there, put the clip in a set of mole grips, and I've got a screwdriver that I've just cut a little slot in the end of there, so I can push that part back, if that makes sense. So let's see if this one wants to go flying as well.
A few moments later.
Oh, I think we're in. So I can do away with them. Lovely. We're in there. Okay, with the release bearing in, I've just put a very light smear of grease on everything. Don't want much at all because you don't want it flinging up onto the clutch. So yeah, it's finally time to get that thing in there. This will be fun. Now this should hopefully just be a case of jacking it up to the right level, rolling it in, and yeah, hopefully everything lines up. And just get those studs lined up in the holes in the bell housing. Looking good. There we go. She's in. So just had to rotate it slightly just to get the splines to line up. So yeah, she's in. Let's get some nuts on these bolts. Awesome. A couple of parts that I wasn't particularly impressed with on this motor was the coil mounting bracket. I mean, well, you don't need me to tell you what's up with that, so won't be needing those anymore. So what I did was just got some an offcut of stainless steel angle, sliced it and diced it, got one of these just generic stainless clamps and sanded all the writing off it, smoothed it out, gave it a polish, and just made up that little polished bracket there, which gives us a nice simple but effective bracket which isn't ever going to go rusty. So basically that just bolts on where the old one did, just on that stud there that holds the two halves of the crankcase together. So that's better, and we're never going to have to worry about it going rusty. Just got the fuel pump off there at the moment as well, because that was starting to show some little signs of surface rust on the top there. So we've given that a good scuff up, masked it up. Next time I paint some stuff, we can get some paint on there and make that all shiny and nice. So yeah, small jobs, but all worth doing. Another part that could definitely be better is the carburetor linkage. It's a nice bit of kit, but it's got a fair amount of surface rust on that hexagonal bar there. So I managed to find some of that stainless steel hex bar. It's 7/16 in size, and it was surprisingly difficult to find that actually, but I found a place in the UK and they were happy to send me some. So yeah, time to make one of them. So I'm assuming that it's just drilled and tapped in the end there, so we'll soon find out. Yeah, that's all that's in the end. A hole with an M8 thread. I can do that. There we go. After giving it a little bit of a buff up, we got a nice shiny chrome crossbar for the throttle linkage. But that's not the only part of the throttle linkage. We've also got these little arms here to open and close the carbs. Now they're just like a sort of rough cast, very quickly cleaned up, and they've just given them a quick once over with the buffer, which, you know, they work fine, they look pretty respectable, but they could be a little bit better with just a little bit of effort. So what I've done is gone through with the a few different grades on the DA sander there. So we got 100, 240, 320, and then 600, and then again just gave it a quick tickle with the buffer in the grinder there, and we've got a lot more respectable part there. So what I think I might do is just infill that recessed area there with paint, just make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more detail. So I haven't gone super crazy to get a mega high mirror polished finish, but it's, you know, good enough for a carb linkage. So that's one done. Get the other one done, and that's another part ready to go on. Does make you dirty though, look. Ooh. Okay, I'm just getting ready to chuck some primer on these parts out here. And if you remember, I said I was probably going to infill the this sort of recessed part on the throttle linkage, even though you're barely going to see it. I don't know, it's a fun little thing to do. But trying to mask out stuff like that with fine line tape is a bit of a pain, to be honest. But that's where being a sign writer comes in handy yet again. I get to basically chuck those in the scanner at work, quickly trace around the shape, and then I can make some handy little vinyl stencils to put on there to get a good edge, hopefully. So yeah, tricks of the trade. Right, with stuff like this, there's normally a sweet spot for demasking it, because if you leave it too long, it'll chip the edge. If you do it too quick, you get stringy bits everywhere. So I've done the other side, it's come out pretty decent. So just, whoa, look at that. Satisfaction. Beautiful. And completely unnecessary. But when has that ever stopped me before? Okay, just getting ready to put some top coat on all the tinware. Just degreased it all, given it a good tack rag. Not going to go into crazy detail with this because you've seen me paint stuff dozens of times before. One thing you can see here is the solution for how I'm going to mount these lower shrouds here. What I've done is drilled some holes through there and just TIG welded some washers around the inside there, so that a riv nut can go in there, because obviously I trimmed off the flange on the bottom that would normally bolt to the sort of Beetle tinware. So yeah, that's it was a little bit fiddly to do, but it's a perfect solution really, and I've sort of trimmed everything to fit a lot better. And yeah, you got to draw the line somewhere with this stuff, because they never fit amazingly well, but they're going to fit a lot better than they ever did before. There we go, another back garden paint job done. Come out pretty good, I reckon. It's probably quite hard to see, it's quite a gloomy day today, but yeah, not bad at all. Okay, that was painted a few hours ago, so we're pretty much dry, but I'm not going to fit that for another day or two just to be safe. So yeah, they can just stay hanging up there for now until I'm ready to put them on. Another small yet a little bit tedious job is to do with the HT leads. Now these are the ones that came on the motor, and they're obviously decent quality brand new silicon leads. There's two things I don't like about them. One is the blue, that's got to go, and the other one is I'm not a fan of, you know, real modern looking leads on an old car like this. So my solution for that is something that I've done before. I did it on the hot rod and it worked really well. Just got some of that stuff. It's like woven cloth heat shrink, and yeah, it's got 2-to-1 shrink on it. So all you do is cut a piece that's slightly oversized, because it shrinks on the length a little bit as well, and then you can carefully draw the rubber boots back, and on the straight one on the spark plug end, we'll just take that off altogether. Then it's just a case of slipping that over the top, giving it a blast with the heat gun, shrinking it down, and yeah, putting those rubber boots back on. And then we've got old school looking HT leads with nice new ones inside. Easy peasy. Okay, all the tinware is all dry and ready to be fitted, so it's time to bang some riv nuts into those little washers that are welded in there, just to give you a closer look at that. So they're just TIG welded on the backside, and then I've just clearanced it for the riv nut there, so it's a neat little solution to a awkward little problem. So bang one of them in there. Squeeze it up nice and tight so it doesn't spin. There we go. Nice and neat, nice and simple. And that is pretty much it for the engine detailing. So it's come out looking pretty sweet, I'd say. I don't know what kind of idiot paints an engine white, but there we go. That's going to be fun, isn't it? Let's have a little recap of what we've done then. So obviously the tinware, trimmed off these corners and metal finished them all. Changed the way that it all mounts and whatnot, painted it all white. That's come out really nice and neat. The bottom pulley, we machined out the recess in there and made that sort of infill piece out of stainless. I was going to paint that a different colour, but I'm thinking I might actually leave it like it is. Scrubbed off all that horrible blue timing marks on there, so I just put a tiny little centre punch mark in the edge where top dead centre is, because that's all you need really. Got a nice chromed aluminium top pulley on there because the steel ones are a bit rubbish. We've got our old yet modern HT leads, stainless carb linkage with all the detailed arms. What else have we got? Oh yeah, the oil filler. I really couldn't stand the one that was on there, so I took it off, put it in the lathe, skimmed it so that it's smooth and doesn't have that little step in it. Took the knurling off the edge of the cap and reshaped it so it looks more like a, you know, like an old chromed steel jobby, but it's still the modern thread-on aluminium one. So that's come out really neat. I'm currently resisting the urge to take off these manifolds and sand them and polish them. So you know what's going to happen next time you see it. They're going to be all shiny, of course. Yeah, I've probably missed a bunch of other stuff, and there are some other tiny little bits still to do, but we're looking pretty good, I'd say. Would be nice to roll it outside and have a look in the sun, but the weather's terrible out there, so we'll save that for tomorrow. Yeah, you can see why I painted the gearbox that colour, because it's a pretty good match for the magnesium crankcase. Was it a fluke? Was it intentional? I'll let you decide. Yeah, we got a few minutes of decent weather, so quick rolled it all the way out into the close so we can see what it looks like in some proper light. And it looks pretty cool. I'm happy. So let's get it back in before the weather turns. Okay, that's where we're going to end the episode. I think I've achieved a decent amount there. And, oh, hello. Here's Jimbo. Look, he's come to do some quality control. Yeah, I hope that you're as excited as I am about this frankly stupid engine in this, to be honest, stupid little car. But if you can't have fun with these things, then why are you doing it in the first place? So you know the score, you know what to do. Go out and build something, go put a stupid engine in a tiny little car and see what happens. You know what the Instagram is, Neil of Steel and all this, that and the other. You've seen it enough times by now. So I'll just show you this one more time. Then we can, yeah, we can see you next time. And who knows what we're going to do then. Maybe we'll build an exhaust. Maybe we'll put the body on. Who knows? All I know is we are one step closer to making some noise. So from me and Jimbo, we'll see you next time.